Everybody, is Captain here. We're just going to dive straight into things without the lengthy intro because you guys already know who I am at this point. Alright, so today what I'm going to be reviewing for you is Bleach chapter 602 entitled The Lethal Dose. This chapter review is going to be somewhat shorter than most of my chapters reviews, simply because what happened in this chapter is very simple and can be broken down into very small sections. So nonetheless, let's get into this. Naturally, as with all chapters, there are positives and there are negatives. So let's talk about the positives to begin with, and we're going to discuss the negatives, and then we're going to go back to the positives, but just simply because I don't like to end things on a negative note. So now, for the most part, this chapter was very dialogue heavy, but the fact that it was dialogue heavy is good, simply because it allowed for a lot of explanation, and Kubo did a very good job in explaining Askin Naklivar's powers in this chapter. I don't need to explain to you exactly how they work because it was done so well by Kubo himself. But again, one of the negatives of this chapter is the fact of how Kubo went about telling us as the reader how Askin Naklivar's powers work. So I understand that when you have a villain or a hero who has very unique powers, you need to explain to your audience exactly how these powers work or exactly what's going on. Otherwise, your audience is going to be confused as to what's happened. Very much in the case of what happened with Unohana when she fought Kenpachi and released her Bankai. So it's understandable why things need to be explained. But there's a manner in which you go about doing things. By having the villain explain their abilities to the person that they're facing, that opens a whole world of problems. One, because it's just easier to counter, and it's just bad story writing. If you take, for example, other series such as Hunter x Hunter, they have the narrator explain what exactly is going on in case the reader or the audience might have missed something. So that's what should be done in terms of Bleach. I understand that Bleach had never had a narrator, so a narrator in the sense a narrator that talks to us. So I understand that can't work, but he could easily done it in this way by having Juha himself having internal monologue to himself saying, oh yeah, this is how Askin's powers work, so like he should win this fight. But no, we don't get that. What we do is we get Askin explain his powers to Oetsu, and then Oetsu is quite evidently able to counter him. What I did like about the chapter is in terms of visuals is that the way that Oetsu seems very ruthless. Reminds me very much of Byakuya, where if something's like not right with him, like for example if his arm was to be controlled, Byakuya is the kind of person who just cut the arm off, like he said that he would do previously. And like time when he fought against a spider number 7, and he slashed his tendons to stop his arm being controlled. Oetsu was very, very similar in that mindset, in the sense that, oh yeah, okay, I need to have a certain amount of blood. My blood level's too high, so it'll kill me. Fine, I'll start losing blood. Okay, I'm not gonna have enough blood. Korinji, sort it out. Cool, makes perfect sense. And you know what? That shows somebody who's very experienced in battle to be able to come up with a solution to a problem that quickly. Most people who aren't experienced in battle would freak out and wouldn't know what to do, and then eventually die. Death was definitely dealt in this chapter, but obviously it was dealt not in the favour of Askin Naklivar. Do I believe that Askin is dead? And to be honest with you, I'm not entirely sure. I really can't call it, because we saw in the last chapter where Oetsu slashed Askin through his neck and he was bleeding and whatnot, and it seems like he's done the same thing this chapter, but seemingly this time Juha is about to join into the mix. So you could take from the indication that of Juha powering up that all those elite Stone Ritter are dead. You can take that, but with Kubo, you never know when a character is well and truly dead, because somebody can have, a life-threatening injury, but somehow return. But what do I personally believe? I'm hoping that these 4 elite Starnuts are dead. Yes, I would have liked to see more of Askin Naklivar, him put up more of a fight, but in a sense, it's kind of expected for this to happen, because you have somebody of the caliber of Oetsu Nimaya. Oetsu Nimaya is no pushover. He, obviously, it goes without saying he's a royal guard, but he's the person who created and forged all the Zanpakutos in the entire of the Soul Society. So, arguably, it isn't a far cry to say that he's probably the most powerful out of the Zero Division, especially when it comes in terms of hand-to-hand combat. So, with that in mind, do you honestly think that, one Stern Ritter, regardless whether it's Askin Naklivar, Death Dealing or not, elite Stern Ritter, is going to be able to deal with Oetsu? I always said this from the get-go, and I always still believe that it's going to take either Juha himself or somebody of the caliber of Hashgrove to be able to take down Oetsu. Otherwise, or even members of the Royal Guard period, because I don't see any of the Sternritters, the Star Knights, being able to do that. And as we can see clearly from these last 2 chapters, that none of them were even a match for Oetsu on his own. Yes, I believe that if Korinji wasn't there, yeah, Oetsu would have had a problem. But like I said, Korinji, him being there, the teammates, they're gonna back each other up. Just how, like, you know, Sternritters and would back each other up. So that's just my general thoughts about that. So yeah, like I said, basically, to summarize, the good points about this chapter were that Kubo explained Asuke Nakalivar's powers very, very, very well, and I have to give him, you know, his I have to give him credit for that. But the things that I didn't like, that Kubo went down the traditional method of what he does, of how he explains either villain, hero, antagonist, whatever, how he explains abilities. That he has them quite bluntly just say to me, okay, this is exactly how it works. Oh, and to every single last detail. He's done it a lot with Shinji. He's even done it with Aizen, but Aizen was a separate case because he was just that hacked. He's done it with Shinji, he's done it with Aizen, he's done it with Rose, and now he's done it with he's done it with Asuke Nakalivar. There's probably others that he's done it with too, but I really can't remember at this period in time because I'm tired from doing university work and yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So this chapter review seems kind of short, but there's not much more I can go into, and we just have to wait and see what happens next week. I did think it was kind of interesting that when Juha did power up, that, you know, we saw like basically kind of like, you know, lightning emitting from his hands, and then Oetsu very confidently tells him like, you know, now it's your turn, come. So things are about to heat up big time. But then here's the thing that I'm wondering: there are gonna have to be some major casualties in these next coming chapters, simply because you've got the Royal Guard who've taken out the 4 elite Star Knights. Like, let's just say they're all taken out, like, for argument's sake. Now you've got Hashgrove, Uryu, and Juha versus the Royal Guard. They're clearly outnumbered. Then you've got Ichigo and the gang coming up, you know, from the Serite. That's a lot of people that Juha's gonna have to deal with. So we don't know the full strength of Juha. Yes, he still has Yamamoto's Bankai. We don't know how powerful he really and truly is, but there's gonna have to be some major casualties on the good side on the side of the Shinigami, I should say, because who you look at as being good and evil is basically it depends on what standpoint you're coming from. But nonetheless, that's for a separate video entirely. My point being is this: there's going to have to be some major casualties in these next oncoming chapters. Otherwise, I don't see how Juha is going to be able to, you know, basically deal with like so many people. Yes, there's one thing being powerful, but then there's nothing when you're outnumbered. There becomes a point where your level of power, no matter how much stronger than you are than your opponent, that you just being outnumbered by so many will overcome that gap in power. That's just what it is. But anyways, guys, I believe I've rambled on enough. I hope you guys have enjoyed this chapter review. It's your boy Shinigami X, aka Captain X. I'm signing out. Those are my people. Take care and peace. Have an awesome day and keep it 99+1.